The midnight klaxon blared across Rusthaven X, scattering Maris Vega's tools across the oil-slicked floor. She cursed, fingers fumbling to collect the scattered sonic wrenches before the patrolling supervisor drones made their rounds. Maris wasn't supposed to be tinkering after hours, but the salvage station's barely functioning life support systems wouldn't fix themselves. We'd warning. Unauthorized maintenance detected in Sector 7G, intoned the station's AI, its voice crackling through ancient speakers. Personnel must return to assigned quarters. Yeah, Maris muttered, shoving her tools into the worn leather pouch strapped to her thigh. She flicked a diagnostic panel, satisfied the patch would hold until morning. And when you're choking on recycled coolant fumes tomorrow, thank the rule book. As she straightened, ready to slink back to her quarters. Something peculiar filtered through the station's background noise, a sound that didn't belong among the creaking metal and hissing pipes. A low, rhythmic keening that vibrated somewhere between a whale's song and a child's sob. "Quinn," she whispered, activating her personal drone. The softball-sized robot blinked awake, its single blue eye focusing on her face. "You hear that?" The drone bobbed in the air. Auditory anomaly detected. Analyzing Wadut. Frequency matches no known mechanical system aboard Rusthaven X. Maris frowned. "Plot me a vector." Rusthaven X orbited the massive gas giant locals called Old Sorrow, a fitting name for the salvage station itself, where Earth's discarded technology came to die, and where mechanics like Maris came when they had nowhere else to go. 5 years she'd spent in this floating junkyard, ever since the Dominion Salvage Corporation had sacrificed her family's transport to protect a more valuable cargo. Official reports called it a navigational error. Maris called it murder. Quinn zipped ahead, leading her down rarely used corridors where the artificial gravity flickered unpredictably. The sound grew louder, a mournful, resonant crying that seemed to vibrate from the station's very bones. "Hangar 16C ahead," Quinn chirped. "Classified storage. Security level. Red. Recommendation. Retreat immediately." Maris hesitated. Red-level security meant corporate secrets, the kind that got curious mechanics disappeared. But that sound, it wasn't mechanical. It was alive. "Suffering. Override access protocols," she ordered. "Use maintenance back door." Quinn's eye flashed with disapproval, but the drone complied, interfacing with the heavy blast doors. With a reluctant groan, they parted just enough for Maris to slip through. The hangar stretched before her, cavernous and dimly lit. Unlike the rest of the station, this space had been meticulously maintained. In its center, suspended by crackling blue stasis fields, hung what appeared to be an enormous creature. Maris's breath caught in her throat. It was magnificent and terrible, like a dragon from ancient Earth legends, but clearly alien. Its elongated body rippled with iridescent scales that shifted between midnight blue and deep purple. 6 limbs, 4 legs and 2 enormous wings were spread-eagled by the stasis field. But what struck Maris most was its face. Elegant, almost regal, with luminous gold eyes streaked with what unmistakably looked like tears. The creature was crying. "Quinn," she whispered, "what am I looking at?" The drone hovered nervously. Xenofauna designation unknown. Classified as Wreckage Asset 7731. Scheduled for materials extraction in 48 hours. Materials extraction? Maris moved closer, ignoring Quinn's warning beeps. "They're going to cut it apart while it's still alive?" Asset is considered non-sentient technological salvage under Corporate Regulation 339B. The dragon's eyes shifted, focusing on Maris with unmistakable awareness. Another sob shuddered through its massive body. the sound ricocheting through the hangar and into Maris's chest. Not technological, not non-sentient. This was a living being in agony. "Exit immediately," boomed the station AI through overhead speakers. "Unauthorized personnel detected in restricted area. Security protocols initiating." Maris backed toward the door, but not before making silent eye contact with the creature. Something passed between them. Recognition, perhaps, or a promise. "I'll be back," she mouthed as the doors sealed shut. Back in her quarters. Sleep eluded Maris. The dragon's cries echoed in her memory, stirring something she'd tried to bury since watching her family's ship explode into space dust. Raw, righteous anger. "Hey, Quinn," she said to the drone charging in its dock. "Pull everything you can find on Asset 7731. Use my security clearance. Warning. Investigation of classified assets may result in termination of employment and possible criminal charges." Maris snorted. "Just do it." Morning brought the usual chaos of shift change. Maris reported to the main repair bay, nodding curtly to Old Man Raoul, the station foreman who seemed to have been bolted to Rusthaven along with its original hull plates. "You look like you spent the night wrestling a malfunctioning gravity boot," Raoul observed, his wrinkled face scowling. "The corporation doesn't pay you to sleep, Vega." "The corporation barely pays me to work," Maris countered, pulling on her heavily patched work gloves. "What's on the docket today?" Raoul thrust a tablet at her. "Waste reclamation systems on Deck 12. Some genius flushed their contraband whiskey still when security came knocking." Maris took the assignment without complaint. Deck 12 was close to Hangar 16C. As she worked, Quinn hovered nearby, occasionally projecting data snippets only she could see. "Asset 7731, read one report. Recovered from deep space near the Cygnus Void. Origin unknown. Biological components merged with advanced technology exceeding current Dominion capabilities. Executive order. Disassemble for reverse engineering." Maris's stomach twisted. The corporation saw only parts to be harvested, patents to be filed, profits to be made. They'd done the same calculation with her family's ship, their lives against quarterly earnings. That night, she returned to the hangar with a stolen security pass and a pack full of tools. Quinn reluctantly followed, muttering risk assessments that Maris ignored. The dragon watched her approach, its golden eyes tracking her movements. Up close, Maris could see the stasis chains wrapped around its body, not just energy fields, but physical restraints etched with strange symbols that pulsed with sickly light where they touched the creature's scales. "I'm not supposed to be here," Maris said softly, unsure if it could understand. "And I don't know what you are, but I know pain when I see it." She reached into her pack and pulled out a canister of industrial coolant. With careful movements, she applied it to an area where the chains had burned through scales, revealing raw flesh beneath. The dragon shuddered, then relaxed slightly as the coolant soothed the wound. Its crying softened to a gentle whimper. "There," Maris whispered. "Better?" The creature blinked slowly, once, twice, deliberate. "You understand me, don't you?" Maris felt foolish talking to it, but something in those ancient eyes told her she wasn't imagining the intelligence there. "I'm Maris Vega. I'm going to help you, if I can." Quinn bobbed anxiously. "Maris, my scans indicate the restraint system is connected to the station's main power grid. Tampering will trigger immediate security response." "Then we don't tamper yet," Maris replied. "We observe and we plan." She looked up at the dragon. "We make friends." And so began a nightly ritual. After her shift, Maris would slip into the hangar with medical supplies, coolant, and eventually small mechanical devices she'd cobbled together to monitor the dragon's condition. Quinn kept watch, occasionally spraying a fine mist when the dragon's tears intensified, a misguided but endearing attempt to fix the leak. On the fifth night, as Maris adjusted a neural scanner she'd smuggled from the medical bay, the dragon's mind brushed against hers, not in words, but impressions, loneliness, gratitude, and beneath it all, a grief so profound it nearly brought Maris to her knees. "What happened to you?" she whispered, touching one massive scale with trembling fingers. More impressions flooded her mind, fire raining from the sky, smaller versions of the dragon sheltering under iridescent wings, the flash of weapons, screams, then silence. Endless silence, broken only by the dragon's own cries. "Your children?" Maris gasped, understanding. "You lost your children." The dragon's sob shook the hangar. Weeks passed. Maris grew careless in her exhaustion, drawing attention. Old Man Ral cornered her in the mess hall, his voice pitched low. "You're poking at things that'll get you killed, Vega." Maris stiffened. "Don't know what you're talking about." Ral leaned closer, breath smelling of synthetic coffee. "Hangar 16C, the asset. You think you're the first bleeding heart to find it? Last guy who got curious ended up taking a long spacewalk without a suit. Then why are you telling me this?" The old man's eyes darted around the room. "Because something's changed. Big executive shuttle docked yesterday. Dominion sending some hotshot to speed up the extraction process." Maris's blood ran cold. "When?" "Tomorrow, 800 hours. Ral straightened, his voice returning to its usual gruff timbre. "Fix that processing unit on Deck 9 before end of shift, or it's coming out of your pay." That night, Maris paced her quarters, Quinn tracking her movements with its single worried eye. "We have to move," she said, "and tonight." A probability of successful extraction without detection, 3.7%. Quinn calculated. Probability of termination, 89.2%. "And what's the probability that I'll let them cut apart a sentient being who's grieving its dead children?" Quinn's eye dimmed. 0%. "Exactly." Maris grabbed her tool belt. "We need help." Finding Dr. Kalen Air proved harder than expected. The station's only xenopsychologist kept irregular hours, researching obscure alien communication patterns in a forgotten lab on Deck 3. When Maris finally located him, she found a tall, wiry man with dark skin and eyes that crinkled at the corners when he looked up from his work. "Mechanic Vega," he said, recognition dawning. "You're the one who's been accessing my neural scanners." Maris tensed, ready to run, but Kalen merely closed the door behind her. "I've been monitoring the readings you've taken," he continued. "Fascinating neural patterns, complex emotional responses, definitely sentient." His eyes sharpened. "You've established telepathic contact." "How did you—" "The scanner picks up reciprocal patterns. Your brain waves have been synchronized with the subjects during your visits." He tapped a display showing 2 matching wave patterns. "I've been trying to get research access for months, but the corporation classified it as property, not a sentient species." "Its name is Argel," Maris said, the knowledge suddenly appearing in her mind as if it had always been there. Kalen's eyebrows rose. "You received its name?" "Just now, I think." Maris hesitated. "I think it's getting stronger. The connection. The stasis fields must be weakening." Kalen's fingers flew over his console. "This changes everything. If I can document clear evidence of sentience and telepathic ability, corporate regulations require reclassification." "We don't have time for regulations," Maris said. "They're coming to dismantle Argel tomorrow morning." Kalen's face hardened. "Then we move tonight." Recruiting allies proved easier than Maris expected. Rusthaven X housed hundreds of workers who'd been chewed up and discarded by the Dominion Corporation. People with grudges and little left to lose. By midnight, a small team had assembled in Kalen's lab. 2 security officers who'd been denied medical benefits after radiation exposure. A network technician whose sister had died in a corporate accident, and a handful of mechanics who respected Maris enough to follow her lead. The plan is simple, Maris explained, projecting Quinn's schematics onto a wall. We create a diversion in the main power hub. When emergency protocols activate, the backup generators will kick in, but they won't have enough power to maintain all the stasis fields at full strength. That's when we strike, Kalen continued. My access card will get us into the hangar. We'll have approximately 3 minutes to disable the primary restraints before security overrides engage. And then, asked one of the security officers. Maris met each person's gaze. And then we wake a dragon. What they didn't plan for was Lysandra Vale. The Dominion executive arrived 6 hours ahead of schedule, sweeping into Hangar 16C with a retinue of private security. Tall and immaculately dressed, with silver hair pulled into a severe knot. Vale radiated cold authority as she surveyed the dragon. Begin preliminary extraction, she ordered. I want core samples from the neural tissue and primary energy nodes. Maris, hidden in a maintenance duct with Quinn, felt her heart race. Vale's team was setting up surgical equipment, laser scalpels, tissue extractors, containment fields. They weren't waiting for morning. Quinn, she whispered, emergency protocol Omega, now. The little drone hesitated only a moment before streaking away through the ventilation system. 30 seconds later, alarms blared throughout the station. Atmospheric breach detected in habitation rings, announced the station AI. Emergency protocols engaged. All personnel proceed to designated safety zones. Vale's head snapped up. Override. Security clearance Tango 97. Unable to comply, the AI responded. What multiple system failures detected when initiating station-wide emergency protocols. Kalen had done his job well, feeding the AI false readings from a dozen crucial systems. As Vale's security team hesitated, torn between their duty to protect the executive and standard emergency procedures, Maris dropped from the duct, landing in a crouch behind a stack of equipment crates. She wasn't alone. Throughout the hangar, figures emerged from hiding places, her improvised resistance force moving into position. In the confusion, Kalen slipped to the main control panel, his fingers flying over the interface. Security breach, shouted one of Vale's guards, raising his weapon. Before he could fire, the lights flickered, then died, plunging the hangar into darkness. For 3 heartbeats. Silence reigned. Then emergency lighting activated, dim red strips that cast more shadows than illumination. In that crimson glow, Maris saw the stasis fields fluctuate, then fail. Argel's eyes snapped fully open. A containment failure, Vale's voice cut through the chaos. Re-establish the fields immediately. Too late. With a sound like tearing metal, the dragon flexed against its physical restraints. The chain links groaned but held, the strange symbols flaring brighter, drawing an agonized cry from the creature. Maris dashed forward, sonic cutter in hand. The chains, target the junction points. Her team moved with desperate precision, attacking the restraints where they connected to the hangar floor. Sparks flew as tools bit into alien metal. Vale's security forces recovered quickly, forming a perimeter around the dragon. Stop them, Vale commanded, drawing an elegant sidearm from beneath her jacket. This asset is worth more than this entire station. A guard tackled Maris, sending her sprawling across the floor. Her sonic cutter skittered away into the darkness. As she struggled to rise, Vale approached, weapon aimed at her head. Mechanic Vega, the executive said, recognition in her cold eyes. I should have known. Your file marked you as a potential dissident, Emotional, irrational attachment to outdated concepts like justice. She gestured toward Argel. That creature represents technology worth trillions, the potential to revolutionize interstellar travel, weapons systems, neural interfaces. Yet you would throw it all away for… what? Sentiment? Maris glared up at her. It has a name. It has children. It's mourning. It feels irrelevant, Vale replied, tightening her finger on the trigger. Replace it with any resource in history. Coal, oil, uranium. Progress demands sacrifice. Not this time. Kalen's voice came from behind Vale. He stood beside one of the chain anchors, neural scanner in one hand, plasma torch in the other. Maris, move! As Vale turned, Kalen fired the torch directly at the restraint junction. The alien metal glowed white-hot, then shattered with a sound like breaking glass. All around the hangar, similar cracks appeared as Maris's team targeted the weakened chains. With each broken link, Argel's movements became more fluid, more purposeful, and with each restraint that fell away, the dragon's tears changed, from liquid sorrow to something that glowed with bioluminescent fire. Vale fired her weapon, the shot going wide as the floor beneath her feet trembled. "Secure the asset," she screamed, but her security team was retreating now, faces pale with fear as the massive creature began to rise, freed from the last of its restraints. Argel reared up to its full height, easily 20 meters from snout to tail tip, its wings unfurled, spanning the width of the hangar, shimmering with patterns that hurt the human eye to follow. Then it lowered its massive head until it was eye level with Maris. "Thank you, small one." The words formed directly in her mind, rich with emotion. Behind them came images. A planet with 3 moons, a species that soared through skies thick with glittering particles. The devastating arrival of an armada that blackened those same skies with weapons fire. "You're the last," Maris whispered, understanding. "The last of your kind. The last guardian, the last memory keeper." Kalen approached slowly, his eyes wide with wonder. Incredible. A true telepathic species. Argel's gaze shifted to include him. "You also helped. Your mind is precise, orderly." Kalen smiled. "I try." "Hey, this is absurd," Vale snarled, raising her weapon again. "That thing is corporate property, and you are all guilty of industrial sabotage." Before she could fire, Argel's wings swept forward, creating a barrier between Vale and the others. From the dragon's throat came a sound unlike its previous cries, a deep, resonant vibration that made every piece of equipment in the hangar shudder and fail. Vale's weapon sparked in her hand. She dropped it with a cry of pain. Through the station's comm system, Quinn's voice emerged. "Attention all Rusthaven X personnel. Emergency situation in progress. Witness live feed from Hangar 16C. On every screen throughout the station, the scene played out, the dragon rising, Vale's threats, the workers standing in defense of the alien being, in mess halls and sleeping quarters. Hundreds of Rusthaven employees watched as decades of corporate abuse crystallized into a single, undeniable image of cruelty." They responded. Throughout the station, workers abandoned their posts, streaming toward the hangar. Security forces found themselves outnumbered 20-1, their commands ignored as a tide of humanity pushed past them. "This is insurrection," Vale shouted, backing away as more workers flooded the hangar. "The corporation will have this station scrapped and every one of you blacklisted." Old Man Ral stepped forward from the crowd, his weathered face grim. "Been here 30 years, ma'am. Watched good people die because some executive decided safety protocols cut into profit margins." He gestured to the assembled workers. "You think any of us got anything left to lose?" Vale's face contorted with rage, but as she looked around at the sea of determined faces, calculation replaced anger. "This isn't over," she said, signaling to her remaining guards. The corporation doesn't forget betrayal. As Vale retreated, Argel's consciousness brushed against Maris's again. The one who sought to dissect me. Her kind destroyed my world. Hunters of power, devourers of resources. Not all humans are like that, Maris replied aloud for the benefit of the watching crowd. Some of us remember what it means to protect the vulnerable. The dragon's massive head dipped in acknowledgement. I have seen this truth in your mind, Maris Vega, and in yours, Kalen Air. Your kindness when you had nothing to gain. This is a power my people respected above all others. Over the next several days, as Dominion corporate vessels gathered in orbit around Rust Haven X, a strange transformation took place within the station. Workers barricaded access points and rerouted systems, effectively seizing control from corporate oversight. Meanwhile, Maris and Kalen worked tirelessly to heal Argel's physical and psychological wounds. The restraints caused nerve damage, Kalen explained, analyzing scan results in the makeshift medical bay they'd established in the hangar. And the long-term stasis effect disrupted normal cellular regeneration. Maris calibrated a regeneration field she'd adapted from salvaged medical equipment. This should help with the physical injuries, but the psychological trauma, that may take longer, Kalen agreed, his hand unconsciously finding hers. In the chaos of rebellion, something had sparked between them, a connection forged in shared purpose and mutual respect. Argel watched their interactions with interest, occasionally projecting amused thoughts when they stole glances at each other. The dragon's condition improved rapidly once freed from the stasis field. Its scales regained their luminosity, and the tears that had once flowed constantly now appeared only when memories of its lost clutch surfaced. On the 7th day of the standoff, as Dominion ships maintained their threatening orbit, Argel summoned both Maris and Kalen. My strength returns, the dragon communicated. Soon I must leave this place. You leave? Maris felt a pang of disappointment. Where will you go? You to the stars, to search. I believed myself the last, but your kindness has awakened hope. Perhaps others survived, hidden as I was. Kalen nodded thoughtfully. The galaxy is vast. If even a few of your kind escaped the genocide. Yes. Argel's thought carried bittersweet longing. But I cannot leave while you remain in danger. The predators who orbit your station will not forgive what you have done. We knew the risks, Maris said. Rust Haven is defensible, but eventually they'll find a way in, or simply cut off our supply lines. The dragon's eyes gleamed with sudden fire. Then perhaps it is time for all of us to leave. Evacuation plans came together with surprising speed. The station housed enough escape pods and short-range shuttles to transport its population to the nearby mining outpost on Old Sorrow's largest moon, a facility technically owned by a Dominion competitor who would be only too happy to shelter corporate defectors with valuable skills. The true problem was Argel itself. While the dragon could survive in space for extended periods, interstellar travel required energy reserves it hadn't yet rebuilt. We need to create a bioelectric amplifier, Maris explained to the engineering team. Something that can convert station power into a form Argel can absorb. Quinn projected schematics based on Maris's rough design. Theoretical efficiency, 68%. Recommend reinforced coupling to prevent feedback surge. Working around the clock, the team constructed a massive apparatus in the hangar bay. A ring of converters that would channel energy directly into Argel's unique biological systems. As they worked, Dominion ships tightened their blockade, occasionally firing warning shots that rocked the station. They're getting impatient, Ral observed grimly. Intelligence says Vale's brought in a special operations team, trained for hostile boarding actions. Maris wiped sweat from her brow. tightening a final connection on the amplifier ring. Then we'd better not be here when they arrive. The evacuation began at midnight, shuttles slipping away in small groups to avoid drawing fire from the Dominion vessels. Kalen coordinated from the command center, ensuring the most vulnerable workers left first. Maris remained in the hangar with Argel, making final adjustments to the energy transfer system. This should give you enough boost to reach the Carina Nebula, she explained, patting the massive converter. From there, you can use natural energy currents to continue your search. Argel lowered its head to eye level. You speak as if you are not coming with me. Maris smiled sadly. My place is with the others. They'll need mechanics in their new life. You would be safer with me. Maybe. But this isn't just about safety anymore. Maris gestured to the bustling hangar, where the last group of workers prepared for departure. It's about building something better than what we're leaving behind. The dragon's consciousness enveloped hers, warm and insistent. Your heart speaks otherwise, Maris Vega. You yearn for the stars, for freedom beyond human boundaries. I have seen this truth in your dreams. Before Maris could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. A hull breach detected, announced the AI. Security protocols compromised. Armed intruders on decks 3, 7, and 12. Quinn zoomed to Maris's side. Dominion Tactical Team. They've bypassed our defenses. Kalen's voice came through the comm. Maris, they're moving toward the hangar. Vale is leading them personally. Begin final evacuation sequence, Maris ordered, activating the amplifier ring. It hummed to life, crackling with energy that flowed toward Argel in visible streams. The dragon's scales absorbed the power, beginning to glow with internal light. The hangar doors exploded inward. Through the smoke and debris stormed Lysandra Vale, now clad in combat armor, leading a squad of heavily armed operatives. I disable the creature, she commanded. Use shock protocols. The soldiers spread out, deploying neural disruptors designed to incapacitate without killing. Argel roared, a sound that vibrated through the metal floor and sent equipment crashing from shelves. Workers scattered, racing for the remaining shuttles as the battle erupted. Maris found herself face to face with Vale once more. You've cost the corporation billions, the executive snarled, aiming a specialized weapon at Maris's chest. But we can still salvage the primary asset. Argel isn't an asset, Maris replied, diving behind a control panel as Vale fired. And neither are the people you've exploited for decades. Across the hangar, Kalen appeared, leading a group of workers in a flanking maneuver. They carried improvised weapons, welding torches, power tools, industrial equipment repurposed for defense. What they lacked in military training, they made up for in numbers and righteous fury. Vale's forces found themselves surrounded, fighting against people who knew every corner and access point of the station they called home. Meanwhile, Argel continued to absorb energy, its body glowing brighter by the second. Almost complete, the dragon projected to Maris, "Prepare yourself." "For what?" Maris called back, ducking as a neural disruptor blast sizzled overhead. Instead of answering, Argel spread its wings to their full extent. The bioluminescence that had replaced its tears now coursed through its entire body, creating patterns of light that shifted and flowed like living circuitry. With a sound that transcended normal hearing, felt more than heard, the dragon released a pulse of energy that expanded outward in a perfect sphere. Where it touched Dominion weapons, they failed, circuits fried beyond repair. Where it touched the minds of Vale's soldiers, it brought momentary disorientation, enough for the workers to disarm them. And where it touched Vale herself, it revealed her for what she truly was, not a monster, but a human so twisted by greed and ambition that she had forgotten her own humanity. The executive staggered, dropping her weapon as images flooded her mind. The extinction of Argel's species, the calculated decision to prioritize technology over compassion, the faces of all those who had suffered under corporate rule. For the first time in decades, Lysandra Vale experienced the weight of her choices. What have you done to me?" she gasped, falling to her knees. "Shown you truth," came Argel's reply, audible to everyone now. "As it was shown to me." The dragon turned to Maris and Kalen, who stood side by side amid the chaos. "It is time. My path leads outward, to distant stars. Will you join me?" Kalen looked at Maris, then at the creature they had saved. "You mean travel with you through space?" "My kind once carried allies between worlds. It would honor me to do so again." Maris felt her heart race. To leave humanity behind, to explore the galaxy with this magnificent being. It was everything she dreamed of since childhood. She looked at Kalen, seeing the same wonder reflected in his eyes. "Together?" she asked softly. He took her hand. "Together." As the last shuttles departed Rusthaven X, carrying its people to new beginnings. 3 figures remained in the hangar, a mechanic who had found her courage, a doctor who had found his purpose, and a dragon who had found hope. The hangar doors opened to the void, the station's force fields creating a shimmering barrier between atmosphere and space. Argel lowered its body, creating a saddle-like depression behind its head. "Mount and hold fast. The journey begins." Maris and Kalen climbed onto the dragon's back, securing themselves with harnesses they had designed for this moment. As Argel moved toward the open doors, Vale called out from where she lay restrained by the remaining workers. "You can't just leave. The corporation will hunt you across the galaxy." Maris looked back at the defeated executive. "Let them try." With a powerful leap, Argel launched into space, its wings spreading to impossible dimensions. The bioluminescence that covered its body intensified, creating a bubble of energy that protected its riders from the vacuum. As they accelerated away from the station, Maris looked back at the gas giant they called Old Sorrow, watching as the Dominion ship scrambled in confusion. "Where shall we go first?" Argel asked, its mind voice vibrant with newfound joy. Maris and Kalen exchanged glances, then looked outward to the glittering expanse of stars. "Everywhere," they answered in unison. Across the galaxy, in bars and outposts and frontier settlements. A story began to spread, a tale of a mechanic and her dragon, a doctor and his scanner, traveling from world to world. They appeared when corporations overreached, when the powerful abused the vulnerable, when grief threatened to overwhelm hope. They left behind liberation, healing, and the radical idea that compassion might be the greatest technology of all. And sometimes, on quiet nights when the stars shone particularly bright, people would look up and swear they heard a distant sound, not the sorrowful keening that had once echoed through a forgotten hangar, but something new. The joyful cry of a dragon who had found family again, and the laughter of humans who had discovered that the universe was larger, stranger, and more wonderful than they had ever dared to imagine.